Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, The Lunchbox. Today's recipe is empanadas. Empanadas are basically turnovers and include a pastry and a filling. This dish, the empanadas, are really famous in Latin America, Philippines, and the Southern Europe. This dish, the empanadas, are very versatile in the sense that you can use really anything for your filling. From freshly made fillings to leftover chicken, shredded pork, shredded beef, ground chicken, or even vegetables. And empanadas serve as great meals. You can use it for lunch, dinner, or even appetizers. So let's make some delicious empanadas. Since we're going to make the filling from scratch, for the filling I'm using 1 cup of shredded chicken. I had this leftover chicken from the previous meal. Half an onion, finely chopped. You can use red onions or white onions. 1 cup of chopped bell peppers. 1 small tomato, finely chopped. 7 to 8 cloves of garlic, finely chopped. 2 tablespoons of butter. 1 teaspoon of paprika. 1 teaspoon of cumin powder. 2 tablespoons of red wine vinegar. Salt to taste. We're going to use some of the salt in making our pastry dough too. Some Italian seasonings, about 1 tablespoon, 1 large egg, and 2 tablespoons of gravy. Now if you don't have gravy, you can literally just use 1 tablespoon of melted butter with 1 tablespoon of broth. You can use vegetable broth or chicken broth. So these ingredients are for making the filling. Now to make the pastry wrap, I have 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 large egg, 1/4 to 1/2 cup of milk. We will see how much milk we need, but we can start with 1/4 cup and increase it if you need it, and 4 ounces of unsalted butter. You're going to start off by making the pastry wrap. For that, you're going to take your 2 cups of all-purpose flour. To this, we're going to add 1 teaspoon of salt. Give it a mix. Next, we'll add the butter. If you have a food processor at home, you can use the food processor to make the pastry wrap. But if you don't, you can use your hand and it works just as well. So we're going to knead this. Mix the butter into the flour. Once you've mixed the butter into the flour, it took me about 7 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes. After this, go ahead and crack your egg in the flour. And we're gonna now add milk in stages to bring the flour together. So add a little bit at first and start mixing. I just used about 1/4 cup of the milk, and that was enough for me to bring the dough together. If you think the dough is too dry, you can add a little bit more milk. Once the dough comes together, we're going to keep this aside and start working on our filling at this point. To make the filling, I've taken a medium-sized pan. I've turned on the heat to medium-high, and we're going to add our butter. Once the butter melts, to this we're going to add our finely chopped garlic. And then toast it a little bit. Toast or saute the garlic for about a minute or so until it starts turning light brown. Once the garlic starts turning light brown, to this we're going to go ahead and add our finely chopped onions, our bell peppers. Give it a nice stir, and we're going to cook this for about 2 minutes until the onions and bell peppers get soft. After 2 minutes, go ahead and add your red wine vinegar and cook for another 30 seconds. After 30 seconds, we can go ahead and add our spices. The cumin powder, the Italian seasoning, and the paprika. Give it a nice stir, and we're going to cook this for a minute to a minute and a half. After a minute, go ahead and add a pinch of salt. Remember, we've added vinegar to this too, so you don't want to add too much salt because it's going to get pretty salty. Just a sprinkle of salt. Give it a nice stir again. At this time, we're going to go ahead and add our chicken. And our tomatoes. Mix everything well. Now we're going to let this cook at medium to low flame until the tomatoes get nice and soft. Once the tomatoes are nice and soft, we're going to add our last ingredient, the 2 tablespoons of our gravy. Or if you have used a combination of stock and butter, then you're going to use that. Give it a quick stir. We'll let it cook for a minute, and then our filling will be ready. After a minute, turn off the flame. Your filling is ready. At this point, we're going to keep the filling on the side and let it cool down. You want to make sure that your filling is completely cool before you fill the puff pastries, because if the filling is hot or warm, it will make the puff pastry soggy and it will create holes and make it all messy. So you want to make sure that your filling is completely cooled down before you can stuff your pastries. At this time, we're going to come back to our puff pastry. We're going to go ahead and make our empanada discs. To do this, you're going to take a surface to roll your dough out. Lightly dust the surface with flour. And place your dough on there and give it a slight press on all the sides as well as the center. At this time, we can start rolling out the dough. We're going to try to roll it out as thin as possible. You don't want thick empanada disc, you want it as thin as possible. Once the dough is rolled out, it's time to cut the discs into it. Now, if you are comfortable making small balls of the dough and rolling out individual discs, go for it. But for me, it's easier to just roll out the entire dough and then cut discs into the whole piece. Now, to cut the discs, you can use any kind of mold. You can use a small bowl or a large cup or a glass and just cut out circular discs into the dough. I'm just using a mold that I have that's circular. That's going to cut out a nice circular disc. Like this, go ahead and make your empanada disc. Once you have your disc cut out, go ahead and separate it from the rest of the dough. Now it's time to stuff the puff pastries. So you can take a disc, and to it we're going to add some of our filling. Make sure you don't add too much because you want to be able to close the disc correctly without it falling out or leaking out of the disc. To help with the sealing, we'll take a little bit of the egg white and kind of brush the edges with the egg white. This is going to help to seal the empanada. Okay, now just go ahead and fold it gently. Try to tuck the filling in while you are folding it and closing it. And when you close it, press the edges gently so they seal. I want to make sure every single area is properly sealed, otherwise when you're baking it, it will open up and all the filling is going to leak outside. And then the final step, take a fork and kind of press the edges of the fork on the very end of the empanada. Creates a nice design as well as helps to seal the empanada. Once you've created the design, your empanada is ready. Now we're going to go ahead and make the rest of the disc or the empanadas similarly. Once all the empanada discs are stuffed with the filling, you want to go ahead and beat the egg yolk and give it a nice brushing on the top. This will make sure that the empanadas turn nice and golden. It's called the egg wash. The empanadas are now ready to go into the oven for baking. We are going to bake them at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 35 to 40 minutes or until they are nice and golden brown. We will come back and check on them in about 35 to 40 minutes. In about 30 minutes, you will notice a nice golden brown color on top of the empanadas. This means the empanadas are ready. Serve them warm and enjoy. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Do try this recipe and let me know your feedback in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.